Hi guys, it's Amanda. It is Tuesday today, and we are in the middle of a storm in the Hudson Valley yet again. You know that saying, March comes in like a lion and goes out like a lamb? I was talking about that. Well, this March has definitely held true to that saying. We fed all the animals here on the sanctuary. If any of you don't know, we have a sanctuary, an animal sanctuary on our property called Noah's Ark Animal Sanctuary. I was out in the morning and at noon feeding the animals and making sure everyone was fed and taken care of, and that the rescues we have in our pen were taken care of also. So that's all done, thank God. And then I said, okay, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to talk to you guys today. This is a really interesting topic. So ladies, gather around because this one especially is for you. The dating game. The church, women, and God being the ultimate matchmaker. Now, this is a very interesting topic. I think it can be a little controversial on some points, but I've made notes here, and I'm going to talk to you about different aspects of this and dating and the church and what goes on in today's society with dating and what we should be doing. So, what does the Bible say about marriage and husbands? What does it say? Well, I found quite a few verses on this topic, and I'm going to read them to you, and then we're going to talk. Okay, so Genesis, we'll start with the first book of the Bible. 2:24 says that a man should leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Proverbs 12:4, a wife of noble character is her husband's crown. Isn't that interesting? Proverbs 18:22, he who finds a wife finds what is good and receives favor from the Lord. So if a man finds a godly wife, that actually brings favor upon him from the Lord. So men out there, take note, take note. Ephesians 5:25, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Ephesians 5:28, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. And the last one is Ephesians 5:33. Nevertheless, let every one of you in particular so love his wife even as himself, and the wife see that she reverence her husband. That's Ephesians 5:33. And Colossians 3:19, husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh with them. So it's interesting because there's some statements and there's some warnings mixed in there biblically from the Lord. Now, overall, what is the divorce rate? I've done some research on this, and it's interestingly not 50% as the media would proclaim, or it's about 31% across the country. In the church, the divorce rate is 15%. So it drops in half, the divorce rate in the church, which I find very interesting because, well, if the Lord is in the center of your marriage and the Lord is number one in your life, then everything comes into divine order, including your marriage with your spouse. Now, growing up, I think some things in the church need to change about the way dating and marriage is taught. Okay, it needs a serious overhaul because when I was growing up, this is the sentence I heard all throughout growing up in the church. Oh, as long as he is a Christian, Jesus can work out the rest. Okay, this sentence kind of needs to be reworked. And I will tell you why when it comes to picking a mate and when it comes to dating. Because it's misleading, this sentence. Because someone could say they're a Christian and have very shallow roots, or they could have just gotten saved and have a lot of growing up to do. Or they are just the I only pay attention to God on Sundays type of Christians. And we all know some of them. So that statement leaves a lot to be desired because, for starters, Jesus can change someone when they are finally willing and surrender. Okay, that's the important part. They're willing and they surrender. Okay, so if you ladies as a Christian are grounded in the Lord, okay, enduring that wrestling match between the Lord and your boyfriend or your spouse, okay, and watching the Lord have to bring them to their knees to surrender can be quite painful for both of you. So that is something to consider. Where are they in their walk with the Lord? Are they a new Christian? Are they truly grounded? Do they truly have reverence for the Lord? And we're going to get into all of this. Is the Lord number one in their life? So, if a man is a Christian, wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. He's a follower of Jesus. Wonderful. However, there are many other factors to be considered that should be discussed and cultivated in girls growing up in the church. It should be cultivated in them that it should prove, okay, that when a man, sorry to niche, when a man is ready, there's a couple of factors here, okay, that he is worthy, that he is ready for a serious relationship. Most importantly, he puts the Lord first in his life, okay? And I have some bullet points here to go through, and it's going to touch on those, and then I have a few other points to make, okay? Number one, that he is worthy of your love and treats you with the utmost respect, care, and consideration. Ladies, your heart is a gift. Don't just give your gift to anybody, okay? Your heart is a special gift. You are a special gift from the Lord. You are a daughter of the Most High God. Just don't go giving yourself to anyone, okay? You are special. You are a gift. Wait for a man that sees you as that from the Lord, okay? There is a huge difference, ladies, between submission and slavery, okay? And there's a lot of Christian men that need to be taught the difference, because submission does not mean slavery, okay? It does not mean totally controlling and dominating your spouse. That's not what it means, okay? That he sees you as a gift from God, like I said, and you are to be handled with love as Christ loved the church and gave himself up. So you see, ladies, if underneath God, because God should be first, he should be up here, okay? So if underneath God, you're putting your potential mate or spouse first, and they're putting you first, that's when it works best. That's when what God put in place for marriage works really like a well-oiled machine, okay? Number two, ladies, to look for. Is he ready? This is a biggie. This is a big one, okay, ladies? Because it is said that actions speak much louder than words. And it will be very clear whether a man is ready to be serious and married. Because if he is not, your heart is going to go on a very, very painful roller coaster ride until he feels like growing up. And you know what? Spare yourself of that. Make sure when you pray about it, you ask the Lord to bring you someone who is completely ready to be married, okay? Otherwise, they're going to have a lot of growing up to do, and you're going to be along for the ride, and it's going to be incredibly, incredibly painful. So what characteristics show that he is serious? Well, first and foremost, that he puts the Lord first, like we said. That's most important. That he spends time with the Lord, that he has a heart that is sensitive enough to listen. Here's the key. Really listen to God's leading. You know, some men have a obstacle to overcome called the ego and pride. And that is big overcoming in order to submit to God and be really sensitive to his leading, for the pride to come down about, 3 notches or so, okay? Does he have a heart that proclaims he's sensitive to God's leading, or one that says, I'm not done sinning yet? If he's continuing in patterns that are not of a godly nature, he is telling God, I'm not done sinning yet, and you are in for a very painful ride, and you are going to have the ringside seat for the wrestling match between your boyfriend or your spouse and the Lord, okay? That he has allowed the Lord to soften his heart and prepare it, because a good leader, okay, if he's head of household, a good leader must be sensitive to the leading of the Lord. They must have the wisdom from the Lord and the wisdom to know when God is changing directions, and they are bendable enough at that point to go with it. They're not like dug in their heels control freaks. They they'll bend with God's leading and they'll go in the direction that God says. Number 3, watch how he treats his mother and how his father treats his mother. Okay, ladies, this is important. Listen carefully. How a man treats his mother is a reflection of how he is going to treat you, how he has been taught by his father to treat his mother. Most of the time is a reflection of how he's going to treat you. There are very few exceptions to this rule, but there are exceptions. If a man is rude and disrespectful, dismissive and insensitive to his mother, the probability is like 98% that he will do the same to you. Even if he appears to be treating you nice at first, because they're all nice during the honeymoon period. But when that wears off, that's when you get a good look at somebody. When they get good and comfortable around you, you are going to get a good look of their true colors. That's when their true colors are going to emerge. Okay? So make sure he has respect for the women in his life. Okay? Make sure that his father treated his mother with care, consideration, and respect. Now, yes, there are some men that are wise enough to learn. They see their father's abusive. They see what goes on and they say, I don't want to be like that. And they let the Lord break that generational curse in their life and break that cycle. Yes, there are cases that happen, but you have to ask the Lord for the wisdom to know the difference in a man's life, whether that is really the case or whether he is going to follow that generational curse. Because you have to understand there are familiar spirits at play here. When there's dysfunction on one side, the other, or both sides. Okay, there's familiar spirits at play. And why are they called familiar spirits? Because they're familiar with everything about you, your family, your history. And they can manipulate things to get you in the same pattern, to continue those generational curses, to continue that dysfunction. So you really have to pray for wisdom to know the difference in a man's life, whether the Lord has delivered him from that, and that family curse has been broken, and there's a new beginning there, or whether he indeed is going to follow in that, and you are going to be the next victim. Okay? Number 4, that he is financially responsible, that he knows how to manage a bank account, that he is wise with money, that he is a tither. This is so important, that he's a tither, because if he's not a tither, if he doesn't want to give that to God, how do you expect the Lord to prosper your marriage, to financially bless it, so you can then be a blessing to others? Yes, God prospers us so we can be a blessing to others. That's the whole point of it, okay? Not so we can go and build giant opulent compounds, okay? Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with having nice things, but there's a huge difference between nice and opulence, okay? Huge difference between the two. That he knows how to pay the bills on time, that he's responsible with his job, that he has dreams and aspirations of becoming better at his craft so he can prosper and be a good provider for his family and a blessing to others. These are very important things when considering. It's not just, if he's a Christian. These are all factors you need to consider, ladies, when it comes to seriously dating somebody and marrying them, okay? That he is passionate, that he stands up for what is right, that he is not a coward that lacks a backbone and shrinks away when he must defend his faith, or you for that matter, okay? The man is the spiritual leader of the household. And there, yes, to protect us in part, okay, to protect the family, to stand up for us. And a man should have the courage of his convictions and be passionate people, passionate about the Lord, passionate about defending his family if that issue arises. If he is wishy-washy about those things, then most likely his feelings for you will flip-flop back and forth to your entire relationship. If a man is not deeply rooted in his convictions and in the Word of God, then his feelings will most likely change with the wind and put you on a very, listen to me, very unstable emotional roller coaster that will exhaust you emotionally, that the enemy will use to exhaust you emotionally so you can't focus on the things of God and come into the will of God for your life. So you have to be ever so careful. The enemy will use love. Listen to me, ladies. The enemy knows women have a sensitive heart. He will use love to try to put the wrong person in your life, but make it look like the right person. So you have to be so careful, and that's why I keep saying, let the Lord pick your mate for you. He is the best matchmaker in the business. He will not get it wrong. Number 6, that he is not overly controlling or a narcissist. Okay, this is a biggie. Mothers out there are raising narcissistic sons who believe everything must revolve around them, and now they're in the church. Okay, and you mothers out there, stop bailing your sons out of trouble. Stop it. Stop it. You are creating a monster of a person for a woman to marry, because that man then is going to expect his wife to be his washwoman and clean up every mess he ever makes. And that is not the role of a wife, according to the word of God. She's not there to be his mommy. She's not there to constantly bail him out. She's not there to stroke his ego while he's humiliating her. That's not what God gives a man a wife for. And in this day and age, unfortunately, these are things more and more we have to consider when picking a mate, okay? Now, it's very important, this is number 7, to deduce whether this suitor in question is looking for a mate or a mommy. Okay, we're segueing from number 6 into number 7. There is a huge difference between the two. Huge. You do not marry or should not marry a man to be his mother. And any man looking to get married so you can be his mommy, I have one word for you: run. Run away as fast as you can and never ever look back, okay? There is a huge difference between a helpmate and a mommy. And if the man has mother issues, well, you may be walking yourself into a huge mess, okay? A man should be stable and mature enough to know how to do his own laundry, to be self-sufficient before he meets you, to be able to pay his bills and reason his way out of problems and be able to learn from his mistakes and become a better person because of it. Basically, he should be able to take care of himself on his own, before he can ever take care of you or let alone a family. This is so important because the man is the spiritual leader. If he's a leader, well, a leader has to be able to take care of themselves before they can take care of a family or a country or a state or a corporation. It all goes hand in hand. Number 8, dysfunction. Dun, 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 the dysfunction word. Okay, ladies, please listen to me when I say this. The Lord can most definitely heal someone of a very dysfunctional upbringing, okay? He can. He's more than able, and he can give them new beginnings if they are willing to let the Lord work in their life and on their heart. However, families today are being raised in a major environment of dysfunction. They're being steeped in it, and that is not what God ultimately desires for our lives, okay? We are supposed to be the light in the midst of the darkness and dysfunction. We are supposed to let God deliver us from those things as a testimony to others that, yes, God is more than able to deliver them from the dysfunction of their families, from the bad patterns of their families. However, if a man was never healed of those problems, guess what? That dysfunction is his normal. Listen to me, ladies. That is his normal then, okay? And he will make that new normal in your home, your lives together. That'll be the new normal. And he will operate in that dysfunction with all that baggage. All that baggage is coming in a U-Haul's worth, okay? And he will try to convince you it's normal. And it's fine because that's his normal and because he doesn't want to know any better. And if that is the case, back away from the bomb before it goes off and move on. Okay. In part 2, we're going to continue. We're going to do 9, 10, 11 through 14 of the bullet points of the dating game, women, the church, and marriage. Okay, guys, keep the faith. Talk to you soon. Stay tuned for part 2. God bless.